Hello, my name is Beck and welcome to a priority TBR plus my reading goals for 2020. So first up, I'm going to talk about my reading goals for this year, but I also want to add on the end of this video 5 books that I want to prioritize reading this year as well. My first goal is always read 100 books, and whether that happens or not, I'm not too fussed about it. I would really like to read 100 books, but obviously if time doesn't permit that I'm able to, then that's okay. But in the past, I believe according to Goodreads, I've read like 70, 100, 70, 100, 70. And so now in 2020, I'm up to reading 100 again, so hopefully I can keep my pattern going and end up reading 100 books. The next goal is my TBR pile, so my to be read list is quite long, but I've managed to reduce it as much as possible last year. So I started last year with 150 unread books and I ended last year on 56 unread books. And then with a book haul, I added a few to that number. So now I have 63 books on my to be read list and I want to get that down to 30 this year. So I want to see how I go with that because I have a bunch of anticipated releases to get to as well that I haven't included on that to be read list, obviously, because I don't own them yet. And I also have a few series that I have the first in. So depending on how I go with those series, I might love them so much that I start and finish an entire series and that throws off my reading for a few months or the start of the year or what have you. So we'll see how I go. I'm anticipating that a few series are going to really suck me in, so hopefully it doesn't throw off my reading too much. The next goal is to do some rereads because if you didn't know, Brandon Sanderson is bringing out a new Stormlight book this year, and Stormlight is one of my favourite series of all time. So the first book is The Way of Kings, book 2 is The Words of Radiance, and then the third book is Oathbringer. So rereads are definitely something that I want to tackle this year, so I'd love to reread Stormlight, like I said. I'd also love to reread maybe The Hunger Games because we've got the prequel coming in March, and then I have a bunch of other Brandon Sanderson books that I'd like to reread, and also maybe Red Rising. There are a couple. Maybe my book The Art of Racing in the Rain, because I've read that like 7 or 8 times but none recently. So that was before I really got into Goodreads that I read that book so much. So I think I need to refresh my memory because I keep telling people that it's my favorite book of all time, but I can't really tell you what the nuances of it are about. So I think I need to reread that one at some point because I know there's also been a movie adaptation with Milo Ventimiglia and I would love to see that film. So I'd love to read that book and refresh my memory before I go into the movie. My next goal is to start and finish some series. So I already have 2 videos on this that I posted at the end of 2019. So one was start a bunch of books this year and another was finish a bunch of books this year, and I had a detailed list of both. So the main one that I want to start this year is Eye of the World, which is the first book in the Wheel of Time, and I know this is a very long and detailed series, so I don't anticipate that I'll finish it this year, but I wanted to make a start on this because so many people talk about how good it is, and it's a fantasy and that's what I love reading, so I figured it was about time that I started this series. And then the other one that I want to start as well is The Alchemist by Michael Scott. Well, I've read The Alchemist, but I want to finish reading that series. So those are my 2 main priorities, The Wheel of Time and finishing the Alchemist series. So we'll see how I end up going with that. The next one is to finish a specific book. It is actually on the shelf behind me. It is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihira, I believe is how I say the name. So yes, A Little Life. I have really been avoiding this and I need to not be doing that. So I wanted to do a reading vlog or something for it. Whether that has spoilers or not, I'm not sure yet, but at least if I film a reading vlog, it will keep me accountable and make me finish it. So this is on the cards to finish in 2020 because obviously it's on my TBR and I want to get that to 30. So it'll just be a step in the right direction if I end up reading it, to be honest. The next goal is pretty easy and pretty fun for me because I read a lot of this genre anyway, but it is read as much fantasy as possible. And I did this in 2019 because I ended up getting up to date essentially with all of Joe Abercrombie's work, and then I also finished the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks, and those are pretty big conquests, to be honest. I'm really proud that I caught up with both, so I would really like to continue reading fantasy that's on my current TBR and finishing those series. That said, I've only got Malice on this TBR, and even though I do own the entire series, I only want to focus on the first book because I don't know if I'll like it. I ended up not finishing it and DNFing the audiobook in like 2018, so I'm hoping that picking it up again now as a physical book I will enjoy it, but Malice is one of them. And then of course I want to continue reading Joe Abercrombie because he's put more work out, so A Little Hatred is one that I want to read as well because this is likely going to go on my January TBR because I already have it as an audiobook and I received this one for Christmas, but I also want to read the Witcher books and, like I said, The Wheel of Time. And then I've also got A Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence, and I really want to read that trilogy physically because I tried reading the audiobook wasn't really vibing with it. And if I can get through those, I might try rereading Red Sister by Mark Lawrence as well, which is his young adult series, also fantasy. Okay, so those were pretty much my reading goals for the 2020 reading year, but now I have a few priority books. So I've only got 5, so this should be pretty quick. So the first one is Stone Girl by Eleni Hale, and this deals with a girl going through the foster system, and it really talks about heavy themes of drug use and identity and also growing up, and I think it's going to be a really hard-hitting contemporary kind of book, and I'm really looking forward to it. I put it off a few times in 2019 and I just got sick of the fact that I kept putting it off because people kept telling me that it was really good, so that's why it made it onto this priority list, because I really want to finish it this year. Next is a book that's very, very different to Stone Girl, and it is The Passage by Justin Cronin, and this, I've been told, is a multifaceted, multi-timeline, post-apocalyptic book that may or may not have zombies in it, but they're more like ghouls or maybe vampires. So there's going to be like dark creatures and humanity trying to survive. And I guess it's going to be complicated, but honestly, I'm just here for a dystopian apocalyptic book because those I love reading. So that's why The Passage is on this list. I also added it because it's quite long and I am sick of having it sitting there kind of on my shelf collecting dust, and I just want to start it. So maybe I'll try the audiobook, maybe not. If I read it physically, it will be a feat because it is so long. And then next we have Demon Road by Derek Landy. This is a young adult book and it's basically been pitched to me as like a version of Supernatural the TV show, but with a 16-year-old girl as a protagonist and for a younger audience. And honestly, I can get on board with that. I don't really need to know anything else. I am 100% sold, and also the cover is really, really beautiful. Next we have another kind of dystopian apocalyptic book, and it's The Fireman by Joe Hill. And again, don't know too much about this except that it follows a woman who is pregnant and needing to have her child, and it also follows a guy named, I think he's named the Fireman. And in this world, there is a disease ravaging humanity where people suddenly burst into flames, but the Fireman doesn't have this disease. He's almost got like an immunity to it. And I don't know if women are affected or not, or maybe they are, but I think it's about these two characters meeting up and trying to survive together. I'm really intrigued. I want to start reading more of Joe Hill's work because I also have Horns by him and I'd like to read that too. Obviously The Fireman is the priority because it's bigger, but I've seen the movie of Horns and I've really liked it. So hopefully I really like his writing as well as just seeing his adaptation. And then lastly on my list I have Nixia by Scott Raington, and I don't know too much about this one except that it's got a really pretty cover and it's an adult sci-fi. So I think it's kind of in a similar vein to Aurora Rising with space and space battle and multiple characters interacting. I don't know too much about it. I'm hoping that I like it. And those are my priority books. So I have about 5 of them. All of them are across different genres and are fairly varied. So I'm hoping that I find different points throughout the year to get to them because I think that they're all going to be pretty interesting. So let's hope that I give them all 4 or 5 stars each because I would love to not give any of these average ratings. But those are my priority books and my reading goals. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what your reading goals are in the comments and I would love to chat to you, but I will catch you in my next video. Bye.